Amy, if I had known you were going to read the whole thing, we would have cut that thing down.
I know.
So good morning. I'm glad you're here. I was imagining as we started that I'd have 2 or 3 people and we'd have a really intimate conversation, so I'm glad you're all here. As Amy said, I founded MPGP, that's our general partnership, to invest in oil and gas mineral rights in the emerging shale plays. I'll talk about that in a minute. You already went through my background. Burnell already mentioned that this afternoon I'm going to go through the drilling and completion process. If you feel like you're happy with this morning's session, you can go. If you're not, don't go this afternoon. So I'm going to talk about I'm going to talk this afternoon, or in this presentation, about a cooperative investment partnership that's only suitable for accredited investors. And I'll give you 3 seconds to read the fine print there, and we'll keep going. From what I understand, my presentation will be online. We'll load it up onto the website, and you'll be able to use it and access it. So, a little bit more on my entry into the Tuscaloosa Marine Shale, but I plan on spending about a quarter of my time making sure that everyone's aware of the options that are available to them as mineral owners, because I don't know where everybody's backgrounds are. Having met everybody, you seem very knowledgeable. I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page as to what some of the options are that you've got as a mineral owner. And then we'll take a look at the resulting cash flows of those different options. And together, I want to do a scenario. It's an interactive scenario with you using an Excel model to look at the values of the cash flows depending upon which option you may choose, or a combination of options that you use as a mineral owner. And I want that to be interactive, so that we'll do that together. And then finally, we'll talk about 2 options that are available to you as mineral owners to reduce the risk of your cash flows. And that's really focusing, we're going to talk a lot about risk and diversification there. Any questions before we get started? Questions as we go along, please raise your hand and stop. We'll clarify things. Okay.
This is strictly a Louisiana examination, right?
It's not strictly a Louisiana examination, but because everything except we'll talk about the things that are specific to Louisiana, but all of these options are available to people in Louisiana.
Gotcha.
Let's put it that way.
Okay.
Okay. Very good. So I set out to capitalize a couple of years ago on some existing mineral positions of our partners in our partnership, and my experience in the Bakken, in the unconventional resources plays. We opened MP2 TMS in mid last year. You could tell it was an engineer that made up all the names. Sorry about that, Amy. We should have put bigger spaces between all the letters there.
Yeah.
We need a marketing person to come up with better names of these partnerships. Subsequent, that partnership is focused on Mississippi oil and gas mineral rights, but subsequently, because of some attractive opportunities in Louisiana, we created a follow-on partnership, MP3 LA TMS, last year. But as Amy said, we started looking at this and really weren't satisfied with the win-lose dynamics in the market that's typical of a minerals rights transaction. And at that point, we actually redirected that partnership to create what we call the Louisiana TMS Royalty Cooperative. And we're going to talk about that in the second half of my presentation. And that provides a unique method for mineral owners to diversify their assets and resources across the entire Louisiana portion of the TMS, and to reduce risk. We'll talk about how we do that. So, one thing that that Burnell talked about a bit in his introductory statements was that Grandma and Grandpa probably told you. Actually, raise your hand. Whose parents or grandparents told them never?
There's somebody trying to get in, and I think the door's locked, so it's uncomfortable.
Come on in. Welcome. So whose parents told them never sell your mineral rights? Anybody never sell your mineral rights? Okay, so why did they tell you never to sell the mineral rights? There was probably something after that. Never sell your mineral rights because
The oil's coming.
bill's coming. They're going to be worth something someday. Anybody ever hear that? They're going to be worth something someday. Now, at the time, they weren't worth anything. I've seen mineral rights transactions for 50 cents an acre, $2 an acre, $10 an acre, right? And why was that? Why were they selling for $10 an acre back in the 30s? There wasn't any cash flow associated with it. But Grandma said, someday they'll be worth something. So guess what? It's someday. That's exactly right. Today is someday. And you need to, back then they said, look, you shouldn't sell them because you're getting nothing from them. And Grandma was saying you should hold on to them because and that was smart because there was no carrying cost, right? You didn't, it was like carrying this quarter in my pocket somewhere. I've got a quarter in my pocket. Or I used to have, maybe I don't have a quarter in my pocket. There you go. So it didn't have any cost to carry those mineral rights. Now, those are valuable financial rights, and they're worth a lot of money. Our ship has come in, and now we need to manage those rights like any other financial asset or financial investment you've got. But they're economic assets. There's no other use for mineral rights. You can't put them up on your wall. They can't decorate your house. They can't, you can't go take them out, and you can't hunt on your mineral rights, right? The land you can go hunt on. And unlike your surface rights, there's no sentimental value for your mineral rights. Grandma did not kiss Grandpa under the tree in your mineral rights, right? There's no sense of they're financial assets. There is a carrying cost. You need to manage those, and you need to. So just like any other financial investment, we should be aware and manage the risks associated with those mineral rights. Anybody have any questions on this at this point?
What do you mean by carrying cost of your mineral rights?
If you've got a mineral right that's worth $100,000 today, let's just say, what could you do? And we're going to that. You could sell it, and you could put it into. You may have an opportunity cost for that $100,000. You could go invest it in Alibaba, and it could go from 60 to 100 or something like that, and you could have made 50% on it. So the carrying cost of that $100,000 mineral rights was you just lost the opportunity to go and invest in Alibaba, right?
Got it, yeah.
But if in the 30s when they were selling for $2 an acre or $10 an acre, there was no, you could buy a couple of loaves of bread with that. There's very low carrying cost for that. So you need to think about the alternatives. I'm going to move that chair. I'm going to fall over it. You can do other things with it. We'll talk about that a little bit more when we go through some scenarios here. So just to get everybody on the same page here, I wanted to go through, and we'll go through this quickly. Sorry.
I have a question. Is it correct in Mississippi when you sell mineral rights it's for life, and in Louisiana it's only for 10 years? Because when you're talking about Grandma telling you not to sell them, is that correct with Mississippi and Louisiana?
Mississippi, you can sell them forever, or you can sell them for a term. In Louisiana, you can sell them for a maximum term. If you hold the surface rights, if you own the land, you can sell them for a maximum prescription period of 10 years. But you could sell them for 2 years.
Assuming there's no production.
Yes,
correct.
Once there's
I'm
production.
going back to the theory of what you said in the 40s. If they sold them in Louisiana, that's in 10 years it reverts back to the previous owner.
True.
Now in Mississippi, it's a done deal. If that's how it's stated.
That's correct.
Okay.
But they could have sold it for $10. In Louisiana, there were sales for
Yes.
$10 for 10 years.
It's my understanding that is the difference between the two states with selling mineral rights.
Yes, it is.
You have to be careful in that respect.
Correct.
It goes to the surface owner, I think, in Louisiana, not back to the previous mineral owner.
It goes to the surface,
Whoever
that's
owns the
correct.
surface, it prescribes to the surface.
So if I sold land and I kept my mineral rights, I keep them for 10 years, and after that point, it goes to the one person that bought it from me, if they still own it.
If they
Right,
own the surface.
and you
Okay.
only keep your mineral rights if you sell the land, if in your sales document.
You have to state that.
You state.
But
you
once
reserve
production
it.
begins, it goes past the 10 years until they pull out.
That's right, and then the prescription period starts again.
Correct. Thank you.
Right. So some options here that you've got, you can, one of the things you can do, I'll try to go, if I'm going too slow on this stuff, let me know, okay? Because if you guys know all this stuff, I think I've got about 5 slides just to go through the options here. You could participate in the drilling. You don't have to lease. You guys probably do this. Do you participate in some drilling?
No, we've chosen not to.
You always lease?
So it's pretty expensive.
So if you don't lease and they drill a well on your land, then you are responsible for your share of the costs in drilling that well. If it's 100 acre, if it's a 1,000 acre unit and you've got 100 acres, if you participate, you're responsible for 10% of the costs. And in that situation, you would get 10% of the revenue. The risks for this generally are unacceptable for individuals with normal risk tolerances.
Because you have very little way of checking with the oil company where the actual expenses come from, because all of those can be hidden. In fact, they screwed the state out of Louisiana out of millions of dollars. Texaco did this a year.
Right.
And if they screwed the state out of it, they could screw the individual out of it easier. So let's.
Yes.
Now, that risk is not limited to the well on your property. If you're in a 1,000 acre unit,
Correct. Yes.
okay, because you said the well on your property, but it,
I'm focusing on the TMS,
On
where
the
they're
unit.
making,
Okay.
900 to 2,000 acre units.
Right.
Right.
thank you.
And if you chose, this is the highest potential revenue, right? Revenue option here, where you're getting your share. If you own 10% of the unit, you get 10% of the revenue. If there's no cost, if that well's a dry hole, you're out 10% of the cost with 0 revenue. So as I say, this is not recommended.
If it is a strong producer, they'll just net you out until the payout, right? And then you'll get your full 10% of your tract, right?
It depends, you could go non-consent on it, and it depends on the rules of how you negotiate that, whether you get all of, they would get all their costs, your 10% of the cost back or not. It depends. Depends on the alternate risk, I think the alternate risk charge is what they call it, is that right?
Well, but it's pretty complicated if you participate, because the oil companies generally have the right to contract for that product, and they may contract for less than the going price.
Yeah, this
And
is
there's not much you can do about it.
This is tricky. So like I said, for I think everybody in here, except maybe somebody that very savvy in the industry, this is not recommended. This is but it's an option. You could, if you wanted to be, your last name, oil company, Inc., this is how you do it. Not recommended. A second way to do that is, and by the way, there are some nice tax benefits, as I'm sure Sanchez Oil Company knows as well. There's lots of tax benefits in terms of intangible drilling costs, and lots of write-offs you get for doing that, but it's a tremendous risk for an individual. Not recommended. So the second one, and this is where most of you are, is that you can lease the rights to drill and produce to an oil and gas operator. And in that case, you're entitled to the lease net revenue interest for your share. You're a non-participant. You're a net revenue interest. You're a non-participating royalty owner. In that case, you have no liability for the costs in this case, and you would just get your net revenue, the lease percentage in this scenario. This is where most people are. They lease, and if there's a well, then they get paid. In this case, you get paid a drilling bonus, as you know. What risks, though, and this, I want to get us talking about risks, right? What risks do you assume in this case? if you lease your property to an oil company, what are your risks, the primary risks that you're gonna encounter?
They don't drill.
They don't drill. So in that case, how much money do you make?
Yes.
Just net.
Well, just,
Just the lease
But is that a
bonus?
risk? I mean, the risky lease bonus, nothing happens.
Right.
You know, 3 months ago when you didn't lease, you still got your lease bonus in your pocket.
So it goes to your first question, the foregone, the other risk you have is now you've may have missed another opportunity if you chose another option. Right? If you're.
But we didn't like the first option because there was so much risk associated with it.
Right, well, there are other.
No, I
options.
understand.
So
You said
yes,
other options.
you might have chosen another option and taken cash and invested in an Alibaba stock, right? So so if they don't drill, you get the lease bonus and that's it during the term of the lease, and maybe you can release at the end of the lease. What are the risks you get under this scenario?
I don't know if this is a risk, but if you lease to an individual and they turn around and sell it, and then it turns around and gets sold again, and it ends up with Halcon or Goodrich, is that a risk for me or is that transparent to me? My terms of the contract are honored.
Right?
Is that a risk?
No, that's not a risk. The risk you might get is it ends up with an operator who may not, unlike the operators that you mentioned who are good solid citizens and good operators, it may end up with an operator who isn't quite as honest and is going to saddle you with a bunch of costs. Actually, you're just a net revenue, and there's no risk to that.
See, that's what concerned me with mine was I checked the court records after we signed the lease last year, and it has changed hands twice, and then it ends up with, in our area, Goodrich.
So the risk is it gets to an operator who doesn't have enough money to drill, and all you got is the drilling bonus. You want somebody who's going to drill that well, and who's going to complete the well, isn't going to lose the rotary steerable tool in the bottom of the lateral, or get a blowout and not produce anything, because you only get paid once they produce, and they produce a lot.
But the reality is I can't control who buys it.
That's correct.
That's it.
So that's a risk. Yes. What else?
they drill and the well is not producing.
Right. Good or bad. Right. You're going to get, your risk is how much oil comes out of the well. Good or bad. What else? One big one.
The lost opportunity, what you have to do
Lost
something
opportunity and
different.
cost, but once they get the oil out of the ground,
The price of oil per
price of
barrel.
oil. Exactly. So it may be $200 a barrel, it might be $50 a barrel. So you assume risk here. You can sell overriding royalty off of your lease, but that's a special case of term royalty interest there, which I'm going to talk about in a minute here. Let's look another opportunity. Oh, by the way, on this, so the lease bonus, normal from federal tax purposes, it's ordinary income to you, right? The lease, and it's subject to taxation as royalty as ordinary income. Once they start producing the oil, that's taxable as ordinary income, but you've got some advantage there because you'll take a 15% depletion deduction on that. So there's tax benefits on once the production comes. And when I talk about tax stuff, don't hold me to any of it. You should talk to your tax attorney. I'll just throw it. There's some considerations to consider. So another one, you could sell your mineral rights in perpetuity in Louisiana, or in for a maximum of 10 years prescription period in Louisiana. And most of our ancestors did that. They, grandma needed money, and they sold some or a portion of them for some period. As you know, non-producing mineral rights sell less than or what producing mineral rights would be, or if there's a well on the land. What are the risks here? If you sell for the max, for some period, you can sell them for 1, 5, 10 years, up to 10 years. What are the risks of doing this?
You lose a ton of money.
You could lose a ton of money.
Immediate operations and gangbusters as well.
Yes. So the win-lose, right? This is the written, and win-lose is a risk. The risk is we're gonna forego a series of cash flows over 20 to 40 years, right? What else is, or what are the other risks here? If you sell.
You don't get the fair market value.
Exactly. You may not get paid what you think. You may not know, and this is because there's not a New York Stock Exchange listing for mineral rights in Tangipahoa Parish, right? If there is, I haven't seen it. It doesn't come up in the Wall Street Journal there.
You're saying that if you're selling half your mineral rights, say you just sold half your mineral rights.
Yep.
Okay, and then the royalties come in, that they're giving you checks.
Right.
You're gonna get a check for half, and they're gonna get a check for half?
Correct. But, and for the half that you sold, you will have gotten a big upfront payment for that half.
Right.
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 Yes, but
So the upside of that is if you needed money and you sold half of it, and they didn't hit, then you're that money ahead but your mineral rights, half your mineral rights are gone for 10 years.
exactly. So you're ahead of me on my next question, which was what's the upside of selling it? Exactly.
The
So
tax is gonna be up too, if you take that one lump sum.
It's actually capital gains, I think, right?
selling mineral rights does have favorable treatment under section 1231 of the IRS code, according to my tax attorney. And it can be treated as a capital gains, and if you would have to determine your basis for those. If for example, if you bought the mineral rights for $100 and you sold them for $110, your basis would be $100. You'd only be taxed on the difference between what you bought it for and what you sold it for. If you inherited it, it may or may not give a step-up basis, when you inherited it. So there are some tax advantages. Let me tell you one thing. Is there anybody from the IRS here? Thank goodness. Okay, so should we turn off the camera on this? No. Somebody had a really good congressman some long time ago, and generally, if you have a cash transaction, if you have a large cash transaction, for almost anything, you have to report the cash transaction, right? There is a special section when it dictates cash transactions for mineral rights that you do not, that the person who's paying the cash transaction does not have to record or report to the IRS that you made a cash transaction.
Well, I didn't know that. That's pretty interesting.
So I'm not telling you anything
Yeah,
about
you're telling
how
us
you
to
should treat
deal
the
in
tax,
cash.
how you should do this or not report this or report this. I'm just saying if someone buys your mineral rights and they happen to pay you cash, they don't have to report that they paid you that cash. Now, what you do with that cash is up to you. But you know who writes the tax code, right? It's your congressman. So somebody's congressman probably owned mineral rights a long time ago, I can just imagine, and put that in the tax. Why is it specifically spelled out in the tax code that you don't have to report cash on mineral rights? I have no idea. I can just imagine why.
That's absolutely true, because when they pay you, they don't ask you for your social security number, and there's no 1099 coming.
Oh, people, mineral buyers?
I'm just telling you.
Oh, you're supposed to 1099 you.
No, there's no requirement for 1099.
Really?
On a mineral purchase.
You need to
On
go
mineral
figure out
purchase.
which
Not
congressman.
lease, not lease.
Mineral purchase.
Yeah, not
It's still
I can imagine it was a congressman from Louisiana, Texas, or Oklahoma. Just thinking.
producing states.
So, I'm not telling you, you can talk to your own tax attorney. Okay, so, and by the way, if you've had production on those minerals, your basis will be adjusted by any depletion that you may have already taken on this. So, we talked about the risks on this. You can sell a proportion you can sell all a portion. We talked about royalty, we talked about selling your mineral rights for a term. This is specific for Louisiana. I think we already talked about this. Okay, if we sold them, I'm going to go back up. I got so excited about that last. If you sell the royalty, right? No, these are mineral rights. You should be on this one. If we sell the mineral rights for the term, you don't get any more, you don't get any lease bonus if you sell the mineral rights. That would go to whoever buys the mineral rights, right? So you can sell the non-participating royalty interest and retain your mineral rights. You can sell a portion of those royalty interests, or you can sell a specific number of royalty acres. The benefit here, I already jumped a bit to it. If you sell the royalty interest, you get to keep the bonus, right? And you can only sell royalty interest for 10 years in Louisiana, right? But you get to keep, if during that 10 years they don't drill, you get the lease bonus, right?
And then I just negotiate an incredibly low royalty, so I get a higher bonus, and then whoever has a low royalty to, and
Good question. So that's a good point. If during say you sold half your mineral rights, right? Say if you sold half the mineral rights, or I'm sorry, the royalty interest,
right.
would you want to?
Well, I'm assuming I sold 100% on royalty.
If you sell 100%, yes. Well, your mineral owner, it's in the transaction. If you sold, I'm sorry, the royalty, whoever bought your royalty, it's in the contract. If you do another lease, you have to negotiate a lease to cover what you sold. Especially if you sold, and most
But why not grant
specified
like a
number of
1/8
acres.
or like a 3/16, just something incredibly low?
But usually, most people will buy a specified number of royalty acres. So you have to have, it requires that you enter into a lease that covers
Gotcha,
royalty.
gotcha,
If they
okay.
just say half, or all of them, then yeah, you could do that. But if you sold half your royalty, the benefit here is, which way are leases going this year? Now. I mean, it used to be an eighth, right?
Oh.
What are leases now? 20%. Have you guys gotten any more than 20%?
No, it's hard for them to do that right now with the cost of the wells.
True. We've gotten some 22.5%. I've heard a quarter. I mean, it's going, as they get the cost of those wells down, the Eagleford and West Texas, those lease rates are going to go up. The trend over time is for lease rates to go up on these things. So one thing, the thing about that is if you sold, say you had 100 acres and you had a 20% lease, that's 160 royalty acres, right? Royalty acres, I was getting confused. That's 160
You're right, well,
royalty
100
acres. Yep. So if I sold half of those now, I'd sell 80. If at my next renewal, it goes up to a 25% lease. Now your 25% lease, you would have 200 royalty acres. You've only sold 80 and you would have 120 left. So the benefit there is that you can sell a specified number of royalty acres, the lease percentage goes up, you create more royalty interest for yourself if they don't drill on the lease. You had a question?
I'm still confused. What is the difference between royalty interest and mineral rights?
Okay.
I don't,
Good.
I thought it was the same.
I'm glad you asked the question. So, that's an artifact of the oil industry from the 20s and the 30s, when every lease was an eighth, right? So it's called an eighth lease, and your standard lease, actually the one that you sign, has an eighth. It starts off with an eighth, and then they scratch it out, and then the appendix says it's a 20% lease, right? So for every mineral acre, there's 8 royalty acres. And that's how they calculate the ownership when they do your division order. They do it all based upon the royalty acres there. So
Okay, say that again.
Yes,
for every 1 mineral acre,
Okay.
for every surface acre, there's 1 mineral acre. For every
Okay.
surface acre, there's 8 royalty acres. And when you sign, I'm going to make it easy with an eighth and a quarter. So in the olden days, you'd sign that eighth lease, you would keep 1 royalty acre, and the oil company would keep 7 royalty acres. Now today, if you had a quarter lease, you would keep 2 royalty acres, and the oil company would get 6 royalty acres. And then for that acre, that's how they do it. That's how you. I wish they would just go to percentages. It's like in the stock market, they used to quote things in eighths and quarters, and then they went to decimals, I'm sure that we need to go to decimals, because it's so confusing. Does that make sense?
It helps, yes, sir, thank you.
Okay, it all reflects the lease.
It also allows a mineral owner to have the executive right to grant the lease if they come back. So if you sell your royalty, the leasing company has to come back and lease you, not the royalty owner.
You're right, that's a big
Middle
thing.
bonus.
Is that, you know,
But this strictly applies to selling your royalty.
right, that's what there's.
If you don't sell them, this doesn't apply.
Well, yeah, obviously, but if you
Okay.
sell your minerals, your royalty's going with you, you're selling everything.
Okay.
But if you just sell your royalty, you keep the executive privilege too, to sign the leases and grant, receive the bonus and all that.
Okay.
So what's the risk in selling term, because we're talking about Louisiana, what's this risk of selling term royalty? Right, it's the same selling the minerals, right? So a big well comes in, if you've sold all or portion of your royalty, then it's a win-lose. The guy, depending upon the price, you may not have gotten enough to cover that big well. If a well doesn't come in, if they don't sell the well, or if it's a bad well, if it doesn't produce a lot, then you win, right? You sold, depending upon how much you've sold, you may have done better than if you would have held on to your royalty. What else? If you don't sell your royalty, what are the risks? It's the same as if you had leased, right? You're subject to good or bad well, higher or low oil prices, right? Yep. So, issues to consider. So I mean, we'll just focus on these. Leasing, selling a portion of your mineral rights, actually that should say for a term, and then selling the royalty for a term. So if you think about this, hopefully we can see, I think we got a little pointer here. So the little purple bar right there, that's the cash flow from, and we had to make some assumptions in putting this slide together about the size of the well. But that's basically the flow of cash flow that you would get by leasing your 1 acre to an operator, getting a 20% lease, having it come in with a 600 EUR well, 600,000 barrels. Each well would come in for 600,000. Your typical production profile that Goodrich and Cannon have out there, $90 a barrel, and then one in the first year, and then 3 in the 4th year would come in. Basically, that's development of 4 wells in 1 unit. So the purple is your cash flow over time from one acre that you would have 1 mineral acre, versus the green is if you sell your minerals you sell your minerals in perpetuity. Basically, it's looking at over the life of this well, because once it starts producing, it's gone, right? And then red is selling your royalty interest in.
Why is your royalty interest more expensive than your mineral interest?
It's not. It's a good question.
That scenario.
Good question. The reason for that is because you would. The reason for that is because the drilling bonus. You get the drilling bonus. If you sold royalty, you would keep the drilling bonus, and you'd be able to sell the minerals. As opposed to selling minerals, you don't get the you just sold it without getting your drilling bonus. Okay.
Plus at least first, right?
Unless it's first lease. So, which one of these cash flows would you prefer? Because if you hold on to it, you gotta wait. We just projected this EUR, the 600,000 to be produced over 20 years. Which would you rather have? The red, green, or the purple?
I guess it depends on my situation.
It depends, right? It depends on your situation, exactly. If I'm 85 years old and I've got emphysema and I've got medical payments, what do you think you want? If I'm 30 years old and I've got a good job and I'm already driving a Porsche, right? Don't have any credit card debt, you may want the other. It depends, right? So I mean, it depends on where you are. So, we look at this in terms of valuing, like Burnell said, looking at discounted cash flows, which one you might want to do. And so that if you've got a low cost of capital, if your cost of capital is, say 10%, if you think that if you're bullish on the TMS, if you think this is a likely scenario that you're going to get drilled, then retaining your mineral interest and your royalty is the right thing to do, right? Because we discounted that. And I wanted to. Let's see if I can get.
Are you bullish on the TMS right now?
Yes. Let's see. Where did my mouse go? Anybody see the mouse there?
Right. Yeah. Top left.
Oh, there it is. See, I don't see that screen.
Oh, we didn't notice that Louisiana.
Wow. Okay, so this is going to be strange. I don't know how to do what it is. So if we change.
Is your mouse plugged? I guess it is plugged in. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's weird. Oh no, you need to see this. That's bad. How did I do that? This is going to be a good trick. This may not work. But this is really good for me. I can see what I can see the screen. Let's see. We might just have to.
You need to duplicate your desktop in the control panel.
What is it?
Under your control panel, you can, in display options,
Turn it over, huh?
right there. I don't know how to do Windows 8, so I can't really.
Wait, I don't see this.
He's coming.
Click with the right click.
When I click
Right
on
click.
that, it doesn't do it.
Are you looking for a spread? What are you looking for? A spreadsheet or a
Oh, it's
slideshow?
not, like, on my screen, I've got
on the
different
You can
ones.
grab it and throw it up there.
Right click instead of left click when you go down to the Windows icon down in the lower left. Try the other side of the mouse. There you go, there's control panel right up. Right, whoa, went past it. Down. One more, whoa, right there. Is that what you were saying?
This is going to be bad again. I can't see it all.
All over?
Let's see. See, I can't get my
All on your phone, right?
presentation.
We're going to discuss it.
I really want that.
Well, you can try dragging the presentation.
So that's going differently than this. There. Okay, thank goodness. Okay, don't try that at home. Okay, so if we assume that if we're all bullish, and we think it's probably 75% probable that we're going to get a well in the first year, and maybe 50% likely that scenario of getting 3 wells in later years is likely, and the discount rate of 10%, you get this profile where I showed that up on the screen, where it's more the discounted cash flow of retaining your mineral rights is higher than if you sell it, because you're going to make that the value of these cash flows over 20 years is more than the value of selling the minerals now. Okay, well, what if that's not right? Let's take a different scenario, and it may not apply to anybody in this room, but you may have an in-law or cousin where maybe this does apply. What if we only thought that it's 65% probable that we're going to get a well, and only 25% probable that the wells are going to come in after that they're going to do infield drilling. The infield drilling, the second and the third and the fourth wells are really where you make the money. The operators make the money, the royalty owners make the money too. And what if, instead of having a 10% cost of capital, what if I've got credit cards and I got a 20% credit card bill that's due? watch the bars there when I hit that. Instead of that being the case, what's more valuable now? That near-term cash, if I've got some place to use it, if I've got a medical bill, if I've got a credit card payment, if I've got 3 kids going into college, maybe it's you've got a higher usage of that money now. It may be worth more to get those cash flows in present. Does that make sense? Yes. What if you're really not bullish at all? What if oil prices go down? I mean, oil prices have been, I don't know, Sanchez's stock, how much market cap did Sanchez lose this week?
25%.
25%. Goodrich lost like half. It was a bad week. Why is that? I think everybody is anticipating oil prices going down. It's my, don't hold me to that, but I think it's just anticipation oil prices are going down. But what if oil prices do go to 50? At $50 a barrel, guess what? Sanchez isn't going to drill. Sanchez is just going to maybe hold their leases on the ones that they consider the best. So your probability goes down. So you got to think about the risks. So, and then.
But the thing we need to understand too is improving technology. Right now, in the conference that we went to in Houston, they said they're only getting 6% of the oil out in TMS and only 8% possibly in Eagle Ford. So at 6%, you're leaving 94% in. So do you think that technology is going to improve? If we could just double that, if we could get 12%, all of a sudden it works good for Sanchez, it works good for us, and you're betting then on improved technology. Now,
That's
do you
right.
think the technology is going to be able to be improved? I personally believe it is going to be improved.
I'm with you. I think it is. But this is talking about, this is the TMS Wealth seminar, right? It's talking about, a lot of this is your personal situation. It's your risk,
Exactly.
It's your risk tolerance. It's your views of the market. I mean, there's views where technology are going. It's what do you feel? And so I'm gonna start transitioning into diversifying strategies. So it's not an all or the other. You don't have to do one or the other. What if we now back up this other pane here? And sorry it's small, but I'm going to even go back. So in this scenario, if you had, what if you had sold half of your royalty and kept half your royalty? You're not going to be at the top, or you're not going to be at the bottom, right? But you're going to win both ways. You may not win as big both ways, but you're going to win one way or the other. If Sanchez oil drops to 50, Sanchez doesn't drill anymore, you got the money up front.
Well, at least you're not going to end up with zero.
Exactly. Let me put 0 there. What if I put 0 in my probabilities? Then you look. If you had sold it, you would have kept all the money. But if you had diversified, yeah, you weren't as smart. You didn't know, so you diversified. You're not going to lose, because getting some money up front is better than getting no money up front, right? Let's see. If I go back to the bullish scenario, right, the guy in the Porsche with no debt, and he's, all he can do is put it in Alibaba stock. Not a good scenario, but even in that scenario where this bar being keeping your royalty, keeping your royalty and your minerals, you're doing better than you would have done if you would have sold any of your minerals for royalty. So diversifying, you're always going to win. You win if it does good, you win if it does bad. And that's the whole thing about diversify your risk. There's a number of ways to do it. So that's one diversifying strategy. I'm going to go back here. Any questions on this? Any other scenarios you want to run on this one?
Well, any way you take it, compared to, I had a client in Morgan City one time, 40 years ago, that the people in oil and gas thought they knew where every bit of the oil was in the world. They had big maps on the wall, little pins, and they found out then, a few years later, as computers came into their own right. They didn't know anything. And they started developing the techniques for going deeper and where we are now, the fracking and all that. And it's amazing, wherever we are today, we were computing reserves in the ground, and oil reserves, the well was $17 a barrel. And now, where are we? So I'm saying we're in a lot better position, no matter what the scenario is now, than you were 40 years ago.
Yeah, this is what, by the way, Amy, how much time do I have, 30 minutes?
You have 30 minutes, yes.
30 minutes, okay, good. Yeah, I mean, you think about in the 30s, how much were those mineral rights worth? $10 an acre, right? They didn't even know it was there.
Back then, they wouldn't even bother to leave it, they wouldn't even put it.
Exactly, and you know, in the 90s, how much were mineral rights worth? I mean, that was where, when I was, we were all, I think pretty much everybody in this room was, with a couple of exceptions, without a high school by then, right? In the 90s, how much were they worth? Not a lot. The other thing about even if you sell, right, the downside, if you sell some of your minerals in Louisiana, the 10-year prescription period, no drilling, oil prices go down, 10 years from now, new technology comes up, your minerals prescribed back to you, you're back in the game, right?
When did they discover this Tuscaloosa? I remember a long time ago, they called it Tuscaloosa Sands.
Well, and I'm going to talk about that at 2:30. I'm going to talk about drilling and completions. You can, in 1998, there was a basin study that was done by the LSU Petroleum Engineering Department, and they've always, the Tuscaloosa sand sits underneath the Tuscaloosa Marine Shale, and they've known it's there. They've known it's there since the 50s when they drilled through it and they had blowouts that went through it.
Is that what Hillcorp's drilling? That's not the deep Tuscaloosa trend down in.
It's the same sand.
That
The lower Tuscaloosa.
Okay.
Okay, we're back. Thank you so much for giving the technology. Okay, yeah, it would have gotten. I would have had done like this, and this is better. So. So this is a little scenario in terms, a little slide. Cash flow now, if you retain we've already pretty much gone through this. One thing, once again, if you retain your mineral rights and lease them over time, then that's a 20-year cash flow, 20 to 40-year cash flow. So if you can wait on the cash for 20 years, that's a good option for you. Selling the royalty, I'm going to skip that last one. Selling your royalty interest, if you sold it all now, you get all the cash now, there's no uncertainty. It's like getting a CD, you know that if it's guaranteed by the bank, certificate of deposit, you're going to get that money. You can sleep at night. You don't even have to read Burnell's Facebook page anymore because you're out. You're cashed out. So let's talk about another option where we talked about this. You could sell a portion of your mineral rights now, and we already went through that. Let's talk about another one. We already talked about that slide. So now, what we've set up is we've seen this scenario of one way or the other, or selling a portion of it. We've developed a what we call the Louisiana TMS Cooperative Royalty Limited Partnership, and it's a limited partnership. We have a number of partners, limited partners, who have contributed money and either mineral rights or royalty interest into the partnership. What we do is as people contribute, it can cash. It basically comes in as straight up value, or they can contribute royalty or minerals into it. It's basically, you now become part of a partnership, of diversified mineral rights in the partnership. It's a limited partnership. These are unregistered securities, so it's only suitable for accredited investors, which are defined as somebody that has over $1 million of net worth or earns $200,000 a year. If you've got a large land position or a large minerals position, you would qualify. Most would qualify as accredited investors here. But so the flow initially is someone would, mineral owner would come to us, they'd say, we've got a piece of land in the middle of East Feliciana. They would tell us the information about it. We would do due diligence on the mineral rights, the mineral ownership position of those minerals, make sure that the ownership is indeed there, it hasn't been sold over the last 10 years. We would put a value on it based upon our knowledge of the transactions that are going on in the market, and then we would assign, we basically put those, we would admit that person as a limited partner in the partnership, and they would own a proportional amount of the fund.
Is it a private placement offering?
Yes, there is a PPM in this, right? Yeah, if you're interested in this one, we would have to have a separate discussion with you afterwards on this, but I want to give you an overview of this.
Do you value each contribution differently based on the location and prospective? You see what I'm saying?
Yes, let's see if I've got this.
That's a negotiated term.
It is negotiated, yes. We look at where the property is, where the drilling activity is, how long we think, we're basically developing a cash flow forecast for that piece of property. And we look at the geology, we look at the logs and nearby wells that have been drilled, and we assign a value to every piece of property based upon technical and title evaluation of every piece of property.
So you'll participate in pro rata, whatever percent?
That's correct. That's correct. So as the once the mineral owner has been admitted, their minerals are in for the maximum prescription period. They prescribe back to the landowner at the end of the 10-year period, unless just as if there was any other transaction. But in the event that there's so now you're part of a portfolio of minerals at this point as the operator, Goodrich and Hanna, Sanchez, Comstock, Halcon, as they make royalty payments on the minerals that are in the partnership. Let's go to the partnership. We account for them. We distribute them based upon the ownership in the partnership, and they make quarterly distributions to the mineral owners. The only costs that are associated with this are the operating costs in terms of basically sending out the checks and the year-end development of the K1 and the tax filing of the K1. So the benefit of it enables, rather than having acreage in one township, in one parish, in one part of Louisiana, you're basically diversifying across. Basically, we've got acreage in all the four parishes adjacent to the Mississippi. Is there a question?
So if I qualify and then I contribute, let's say 150 net mineral acres to our fund here, and then I'm in, let's say, West Feliciana, and I start getting their, royalty revenue, but my property never gets produced, and then it prescribes back to me, right? And I've just been getting the benefit of 10 years worth of royalty, and then all of a sudden I have my 150 acres back scot-free, pretty much, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. And the converse to that is true. If you had the best well in Tangipahoa, and you're going to get a smoothed out. So if you look at what this is a, let's see if I can. This thing's giving me a problem. Here. So if you had kept your well and it drilled, your cash flows are probably going to look like what's here in blue, right? Before the well comes in, your cash flow 0, right? When the well comes in, big payments up front, 70% decline in the first year, tailing off to a fairly small amount of cash until the next well is drilled, and then so on and so on and so on. So if you had kept your well, if you hadn't participated in the partnership, you would have a blue cash flow. If you contribute that to the fund, now you're only going to own a portion of the proceeds from your well, and you and the other owners in your partners in the partnership will get a much smoothed out cash flow stream. The idea being diversification, right? You put a bunch of different wells together, and it's going
It's a
to.
law, averaging, you always smooth it, and you get the safety of that, but you always average down.
Correct. Well, it depends. On average, just diversification. The theory of diversification is your risk-adjusted returns are higher because your risk is lower. You have a lower return but you've got lower risk. You're much more likely to get some money.
Yeah.
And have a smoother cash flow stream here.
How many acres is in the Louisiana fund?
We've got thousands of acres in at this point. So yes.
There's two funds, Louisiana and Mississippi fund.
We have, the Louisiana fund is open for this type of diversification. We're hoping to feel out other people about whether we should open a Mississippi fund at this point.
So the only way to get in this is to have land.
Mineral rights. Yeah. Well, if you've got prescribing mineral rights, you can participate with your mineral rights. But yeah, you've got land, obviously, you've got and still have minerals, you can participate.
You have some sort of algorithm to value it if I have like 3 years left of my prescription period? You know, I mean, will you even accept that?
Yes, I mean, and that's the benefit here, and this is what you're relying on our management to do, is to have those algorithms and have a good understanding of the market rate, market prices, and because I mean we're owners in this fund too. We don't want to bring in royalty or minerals that are unlikely to produce cash. We want to bring in good minerals in such that we all benefit from it. So we own a third. The general partners own more than a third of the fund. Let's see, liquidity. We do provide liquidity in the event that you wanted to sell out beforehand. We've got investors who would buy with cash to cash out of limited partners. Some limited partnerships have no liquidity available to them. The other benefit of this is that you're getting, if you have one tract of land in Louisiana, in Paris, Louisiana, you know a lot about your tract of land. We provide information and reporting on all the activity across the fund to all our partners, as well as any transactions and any cash flow and the specific ones that we've got. So that we provide a lot of information to our partnerships here. I think I did this here. Went through this already. We only want to bring in good minerals, describe the value, provide liquidity. We do the legal work. The other thing is we have to make sure that the title for the minerals coming in is a valid title. We do all that, and obviously do the administrative work in terms, mainly for communication, reporting, and tax filing here. So I think you've seen what's on the Facebook page. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Diversify, and so adding a chart to this, cash flow now, much more likely to get cash flow now as opposed to having undiversified cash flow in the future. Smoother cash flow, you're going to long-term prospects, you retain the rights as they prescribe back to you, and you've got reduced risk. You retain a portion of your upfront cash flow in exchange for a smoother cash flow, and obviously further reducing it from this cooperative venture.
I have a question.
Yes.
What about for properties that are not under lease right now, but are adjacent to leases?
We'll bring in any minerals or royalty that has good prospect of cash flow. I mean, we're leasing. We have some unleased minerals that we're negotiating leasing on right now. We'll do the
labor.
Right.
Bring it in.
So if I qualify and my property qualifies in your eyes and it's not producing, but it's prospective, and I contribute to the fund, I'll have cash flow that next month.
That's correct. That's right. And with the idea that, you know, when we believe that your property will start producing, that'll contribute down the road. That'll keep smoothing out those bumps later on down the road. But this was all started, I mean, we talked about, you know, the win-lose part. I mean, people are, you know, you talk to people and they're like, well, everybody's worried about when it's gonna drill, and everybody's reading the Facebook page, and people are worried about, you know, selling. Oh, you know, I wouldn't want to sell because if I sell, I'm going to lose out on the upside. You know, this is just, it's another alternative for people. It's another option for people to consider. And I think this option, the option to sell a portion of your royalties, term royalties, is a good way if you want to diversify the risk. It's all about risk, right? And you know, remember, these are financial assets. There's no. Grandma did not kiss grandpa underneath the mineral rights.
Well, the other question is who you sell it to. How do you know who you're dealing with?
Well, selling isn't a terrible, there isn't a lot of risk in who you sell to, as long as they've got, your cash is green, right? As long as it's spent. Because once you've sold it, you're done in who you sell it to.
But if you're talking to someone about selling your royalties, you need legal counsel to that.
You should
Or
have
who you're dealing with?
You should have an attorney review the
Agreement?
deed.
The deed? Okay.
Right.
Okay.
There is risk with selling. I had a lady last week brought me a letter she got from a company to sell her mineral rights. She only had 2 acres. She was told by them, not in writing but on the phone, that because she did not have 10, this was in Tangipahoa Parish, she was told because she did not have 10 acres or more, she would never receive a royalty payment. And she asked me about it, and I said, they're crazy, that's not right, you will get paid. And they only wanted to give her $1,000 an acre. And she was an elderly lady, and she was about to take it. And they are out there, and you've got to be careful.
It's true, we've gotten
swindling people big time.
solicitations where they pay a percentage of your of the drill. They take a percent. Have you gotten those? The ones where they solicit, they tell you we'll pay a percentage of your drilling bones.
Up to 10 times whatever the operator pays you for. I saw those letters. Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
That's why I asked what it is.
Well, people just don't know, right? I mean, we're in the business. We do this
to lease original.
one.
That's at least
250. That's at least bonus.
So we are a part of the market. We participate every day, and I was on the phone, the drive over here with the guy all the time. I mean, everybody has a life. This is a job. I know the market. We're in tune to the market. You don't have to be in tune to the market if you're working with somebody. But yeah, there's people out there.
They're literally showing up to your house unannounced with a check made out to you. I saw a man's check for $136,000 on 176 acres, and he put it in his pocket so fast. Didn't read the fine print.
That's great.
And there's people that are that gullible, like you said, may need it, and it's really sad, but it's legal.
Yeah, there's
That's
like,
the reality.
you think about no cash transactions, not reporting cash transactions. I mean, you don't even know. You know when it's filed in the courthouse.
What type of fees does the partnership charge?
The partnership,
$20,000.
the question was what kind of fees do we charge? We only charge the actual expenses for the legal, and I think there's $1,000 a month total, in addition to the audit fee. The accounting fees, I think, $600. I can't remember. There's some limited amount to produce the K1s, and it's $1,000 a month fixed that goes to the general partner to do all the legwork on everything.
$1,000 a month. Yeah, $1,000 a month. You said.
$1,000 a month.
So that just comes off the top of what.
Right.
I'm not
But that covers all the
anyway, so.
That to cover all these issues in terms of.
So the officers don't get paid?
No, we don't get paid. We get paid. We've got other funds that we manage as well. We've got many different funds that we manage.
So you have equity in the
Like
fund though, right?
prorated or like corporate cooperative?
And we're part of the cooperative. That's right. One of the reasons why our fees are so low is because this is our money here. We own a third of it right now. So.
Do the early adopter mineral rights holders, do they get outsized like interest than maybe a later adopter, or is there any?
At some point, when the the valuation of the minerals changes dramatically, they will get it, we'll start valuing them differently. At this point, we're still bringing in pro rata, because the mineral rights haven't changed, the prices haven't changed. At one point, when mineral rights changes, we'll then value the existing assets differently. But yeah, that's a good
Are
question.
there people contributing, producing property?
No, we've only taken in non-producing properties at this point.
Yeah, I mean, that would make more sense. That would make more sense.
Yeah, I mean, once it's producing,
Yeah.
you don't have risk to diversify either, right?
Well, Peter.
I guess, go ahead, I'm sorry.
What's the background of the decision makers? That's what I want to know. The basic decision in your company.
It should be online.
The decision as to accept the property or not?
Yes, so the two principals are myself, you've met me, you've heard my background, and Elliot Morton, I think you've met Elliot. We've been doing this for years. Elliot manages Central Lumber Minerals. They've got 23,000 mineral acres in central Mississippi. They've been doing it for years. And we're the two principals in the company.
You got any geologists?
We contract with geologists.
You
Yeah, we contract the geologists and legal. And geologists, legal, and land.
Have you done this in other places, or is this your first go with TMS?
This is our first go. We've been doing it for about a year. But we've been managing Central Lumber Minerals acres for years.
Are there success stories for similar cooperatives in other places?
This is innovative. I don't believe that there's anything like this. This was one of those ones where I was just like, this win-lose, and the angst. If I came to you and I said, I'm going to buy your, can I buy your minerals? It'd be like, oh, I don't know what to buy, but I might need money, and the pull, and the angst. It's like, gosh, there's got to be some other way. There's got to be some other way to deal with the risk, right? Yeah, I need money, but Grandma told me never to sell,
Yeah.
right?
This opportunity sounds great for the people that have not been leased yet to, they all having this issue, when are they gonna call me? Or, and right next door.
Even if they're leased, though, it's when are they going to drill?
Well,
Right, yeah. If you haven't been drilled, if you don't have it, there's not a lot of wells drilled in Louisiana yet. Right.
Do you know why that is, why it's heavily favored in Mississippi?
There's a couple of reasons for it. How much time do we have?
Yeah.
How much time do we have?
About 8 minutes.
Well, it started sooner. I mean, Mississippi's what, a couple years ahead of Louisiana?
Yeah, there's a couple of reasons
I
for
think
it.
it was the favorable laws more than.
Tax laws.
Yeah, there's
the tax breaks too, though.
Yeah.
There's good tax breaks. The severance tax is significant once they get past the tax breaks. What's Sanchez's view on it?
Depth.
Yeah, it's like
It's
deeper in
depth. It's a
Louisiana.
lot deeper in Louisiana.
Yeah.
After well cost, TBD is 12,000 feet or deeper. Shallow in Mississippi.
And that's why you're seeing Tangipahoa, because the reservoir lays over here, it's shallower in Tangipahoa, shallower and thicker.
Right, if you get enough oils and stuff, and they had drilled over there, it hadn't been successful. I think the rocks are different over there than they are in Mississippi.
Is it harder?
I don't have a question on your partnership program, but a math question. You said 1 mineral acre equals 8 royalty acres?
Yes.
What are you paid on? The 1 mineral acre or the 8 royalty acres?
They pay on royalty acres.
So you're telling me if I have 20 acres, I'm paid on 160? It's
No.
figured at
But
160? Somebody do the math for me, not
It
common
depends on your
core,
royalty
please.
and your lease. So if you have 20 mineral acres,
There's another class.
If you were going, you remember that first option where you participated? Where you're part of the drilling cost, where you're participating, you would get paid on 8 acres. But if you lease, then you get your lease rate basically of those. You would get 20% of those 8 acres. You get 1.6 royalty acres there for every service acre.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
This is one where, gosh, it's really difficult to understand that. Any other questions? Very good.
All right.
Well,
Good
I
job, Peter.
appreciate you. Thank you for your questions. I'm glad you were here. I was wondering if I was gonna be talking to an empty room.
Before you leave, I just want to remind you that we will have refreshments out in the main hallway. Cookies, sodas, I believe coffee's out there, so help yourself, and the next session will start in 15 minutes.
Great, thank you.